Thank you for joining us for a brief overview of road safety audits and the 8-step process, created by the National Center for Rural Road Safety. This is part 3 in the series, Road Safety Audits, Making Roads Safer. Part 1 was an introduction to road safety audits, and part 2 was road safety audits, what they are, and how to get started.
So what is an RSA? Let's just start there. A road safety audit is a formal and independent safety performance review of a road transportation project by an experienced team of safety professionals addressing the safety of all road users. But let me break it down for a few of the words in there that I wanted to highlight. A formal process. So what we'll go through during the training is an actual 8-step formal process with documented procedures of how a road safety audit should be conducted. It's a little flexible, but it's a process. Independent, we're looking for a team that isn't out there every day looking at the same project, doesn't already know all the political reasons why not to make certain improvements, doesn't already have a biased view, but is able to come with a fresh look at these locations. Safety performance, so we're not looking just at numbers, not just looking at engineering standards. We're not just looking at why the road was built a certain way. We're actually out there to look at what crashes have happened out there, how are people interacting with the roadway, and what does that tell us about what maybe needs to change. It's important that we get the perspectives not just of all road users, but also of all the people who have a piece of improving safety. So while a lot of times we are heavily focused on engineering type improvements as part of this process, we also want to consider the other factors that are involved. So the emergency response and enforcement, any kind of education that may have a piece of the safety puzzle. It's very important to consider those as part of the RSA process. Also, those other pieces have a lot to contribute to the discussion and may know a lot more of what's going on than just an engineer going out and looking at the data or looking at the site and looking at their checklists. They have a very different perspective, and so bringing all of those is a very critical part of the RSA process. And then the last point on there is very important. We want to consider all road users. So everything from the big trucks that are have a very different view down to the sports cars where you got a real a low angle on the same road facility, and then also taking into account those non-motorized users. As I mentioned, there's a formal process for the road safety audits. So, 1 and 2 is identifying the road project and pulling together a team to look at the safety concerns. So, Lummi Nation has identified a few locations. The team is going to be everybody who participates in the workshop, and it's great to see that we've got some multidisciplinary participation in that group. Right now, we're at step 3 here, which says conduct a kickoff meeting. So that's our opportunity to talk in a little bit. Kirk's going to come and give us a little more information about those sites we'll be looking at. The rest of the process involves performing a review of both the information we have that we can sit down in an office type setting and look at, the data, and also going out in the field and looking at the locations. We'll save as much of our discussion as we can and come back to the office and take those observations that we have, take that data that we have, and put together an actual report. The process here ends with a closeout meeting, and then we'll have a meeting to go through the findings that the workshop has produced. And then 7 and 8 there, a formal report should come out of this process, and we really recommend at the very end of the process that the group that's receiving the report, whether that be the county or the tribe, that there be some sort of documentation to kind of close the loop and determine what from this process is going to be implemented and what's not, so that there's not just some findings hanging out there with no action. I did want to take just a minute to mention that road safety audits are actually very different than a transportation safety plan. If you're involved with the tribal transportation program at all, you've heard a lot from us about these transportation safety plans. A transportation safety plan is not focused on one specific roadway or one specific road project, but is looking at a whole road network and what kind of factors are involved in the safety picture for that larger network. Whereas the road safety audit that we'll be talking about is a lot more focused on safety performance at one specific location.
For more details about the 8-step process, please refer to the RSA Toolkit and additional videos in this series. Presented by the National Center for Rural Road Safety. Visit www.ruralsafetycenter.org to find out more about road safety audits and to stay informed of future trainings.